Interested in this one, please. Thank you. You volunteered to have a conversation. I love that. Politicians usually don't. I like it very much. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
That's the easiest question so far.
Well.
All right, correct answer. We're doing well. A lot of issues where we're looking at how do we do better in our world, the answer often is political will. So from your perspective, is that where the power lies? It's with politicians, with heads of state. If the administrations don't sign up, they don't believe in sustainable food, in healthy living, then it's never going to happen.
That's the perception with many people. But the reality is that sovereignty really is with the people generally, especially in democracies. Politicians are responsive to their constituents. When they know what the people want, then they play up to it. So power really is with the people.
So just before election time?
If you have a tenure of 4 years, every day is like an election time.
Really?
That's how it is.
All right. Let's talk specifics here. Action. So we're talking about commitments. So this happens regularly. You'll have a big pledge, lots of commitments, and then no follow-through. Give us an example where you see that, or you've seen that.
Well, if we are looking at the current world, say with the climate change interactions, we see the developed world generally making commitments of finance, of technology transfers, of general support to the developing world. So together, the world would be united in tackling the challenge of climate change. Unfortunately, so far, it's been more commitment than fulfillment of pledges. That's a very...
Why does that happen?
I wish I could explain.
You're a former president and a former chair of the African Union. If you can't explain, we're stuck.
We are not stuck.
Okay.
Fortunately, the world is moving on. And just last December, we saw what happened in Paris. The whole world, I think over 190 countries, signed an agreement to hold together in tackling the impact of climate change, which threatens to change life as we've known it so far by middle of the century. I believe this time around, there might be seriousness in fulfilling pledges. It's not just the heads of state that committed. We had captains of corporate world doing it, NGOs, civil society organizations, all stakeholders committed. And we believe by 2020, pledges of something like $100 billion from around to sort of help the world generally, but more so the developing world, to transit from relying on fossil fuel energies to renewable energies, and also to transit into using green technologies for development. I believe this will happen. And the signatories to the agreement are not being sort of forced. They are all committing to independently contributing to more or less their means. And I believe we'll do it because climate change has virtually outrun the science we have and also the technologies, and everybody appreciates the very devastating impact on life all over. So I believe this time there might be change, real change.
Yeah, I like this. I believe this time there might be change.
That's how to put it.
Right,
It's a way of speaking.
All right. So you have a very distinctive view of the idea of making commitments, making pledges, following through as not being charity for the developing world. Explain that to us. Well,
earlier times, it seemed like charity. But now, the impact of climate change is devastating both the developed and the developing. And it's, I believe, the first law of life is survival. It's become existential for even the developed. And they see that unless we pull together then it's like all of us being in the same boat. We either sail or perhaps we sink. So it's not charity, it's self-preservation.
There are a lot of people in this room who are activists, who have campaigns, who have passions that they want to happen. And in your position, where you're still a statesman and very much a politician still, what advice would you give this room who have issues about sustainability, healthy eating, climate change? What can you tell us that will help us?
Well, climate change is overarching. It affects agriculture, food systems, health, cultures, migration. And so I believe it's about humanity. And I want to say that perhaps at long last, mankind has moved into the era of humanity. And when you are talking humanity, once you accept that humanity is central to everything, whether you are red or black or white or Muslim or Christian. Humanity, the dignity of mankind, the sustainability of life, as we've known it, should be central to everything. Then I believe that should be the rationale for all of us to hold together. We should give for all of us to live together.
So the rationale, but I'm still pushing for the advice.
That's the advice.
That's it?
If you are human, then
Right.
know that to survive, you must belong with those who are saying, let's do it together.
What about, I like that idea that politicians are always listening out to our issues and are responsive. This must be somewhere else that I haven't been to yet, but I really like it. Maybe it's here, actually. Maybe it's in the Nordic region. But elsewhere, not necessarily so. So if you want to be more pragmatic about how you suggest very strongly to your administration, to your politicians, that there are other ways to think about how we develop our world, what would be the one thing?
One thing.
Several.
Well, I heard you say one.
One's good. I didn't want to push you too much. I could ask you for 10.
See,
I'll stick with one.
some wise man once said, if people get the government they deserve. And also, we shouldn't assume that just because one becomes a president, one becomes a know-all. Presidents tend to depend on many experts, advisors, civil servants, all sorts of people. In America, presidents even depend on lobbyists and pressure groups. And I believe that's how it should be. Presidents should be made to listen. And they should listen from the grassroots. And if you are going to cast your vote as a citizen, then you should cast your vote to the person who you believe would go and work to better the conditions of your life. On this basis, I don't think we leave everything to the politician. We should all feel responsible. Of course, once the politician becomes a president, he should be held accountable by the people who put him there. But the people should also always see themselves as responsible citizens. And so when we see the field of politics, and especially when you are talking of political will, we should see that it issues out of a cyclical sort of relationship. The president would be responsive, that's what I meant, to the people, because he would know that if he does not perform to the satisfaction of the people, then perhaps he might be shown the red card and might lose his job. So he would do well to interact with the people.
You were watching the EAT Forum online yesterday.
Yes.
What was your takeaway? What did you enjoy?
Oh, it is a great thing. I like the mantra of science, politics, and business. It's a collective. And for what? Again, it's for survival. I happen to support nutrition because as the current African Development Bank CEO put it, people are essentially what they eat. the nutrition aspect of food apparently is what determines what we become, especially in the first 1,000 days from our being in our mother's womb to year 2.
Yeah.
Because it's there, our brains are developed, and even our physique.
We're going to hear more about that. There's a panel coming up that actually is, is moderated by a princess. It's going to be a good panel.
We are on it.
Really? I know.
When you are talking leadership, that's it.
Yes.
The princess.
Yes, exactly.
Up front.
All right. Yes, President Kufour.
Yes.
Of Ghana. It's been a pleasure.
I'm very happy, Femi, for this interview and before this distinguished crowd.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Kufour of Ghana. Thank you.